Welcome to the Elizabeth Cunningham Show, Courageously Expanding Love with me, Elizabeth Cunningham. My mission is to expand the conversation of love in the world. Is it possible to have deep, loving, healthy relationships? Have you ever been curious about having more than one relationship or partner at a time? Get ready to transform in love, be courageous, and set yourself free. In this show, we talk about relationships, sex, love, and the ways we wish we could be, but never thought were possible. The Elizabeth Cunningham Show starts now. All right, welcome to the Elizabeth Cunningham Show, Courageously Expanding Love. And today we are talking about all things intimacy. But before we get into that and introduce our phenomenal guest today, a reminder that the Elizabeth Cunningham Show is every Tuesday live, 3 p.m. Pacific time on the Transformation Network Facebook page. It is then aired on YouTube and podcast every single Thursday, and all of those links are in the show notes, so you never have to miss a single thing. Turn on all the bells, whistles, everything that you need so that you don't miss a show about love and sex and relationships. All right, on today's episode, we will be talking with Liana, who is an intimacy coach. Oh, and I'm throwing things. Fantastic. It's a good way to start the show. And we are going to be talking about all things intimacy. Liana lives in Romania, which is in Southeastern Europe, for those of you who don't know. Though you could swear she's a bit American by the way of her speaking. We've already been having a great time. She is the holistic intimacy coach. She has many useful videos on her YouTube channel. She teaches online classes as follows: 3 around intimate touch, 1 on intimacy growth, and 1 extensive program on women's sexual practices. She brings grounded wisdom to the sexual and erotic discussion in today's fast and disembodied world. So Liana, the holistic intimacy coach, thank you for being here.
Hi, Elizabeth. Thank you for having me here. And it was great getting to know you before we recorded this show. And I love your vibe. We seem to be sisters in vibe. So
I know, just silliness.
So I don't know. I never asked you when you were born, but when I was a kid, there was we had Cartoon Network here, and we were watching Dexter's Laboratory, and I was like, Didi, what does this button do? What does this do? Like,
oh my God,
technology like that. So.
Yes, I love it so much. Oh my God, I love Dexter's Lab. I completely forgotten about that show. I love that show.
I'm not blonde. I don't do ballet, but I am an older sister. So
I am absolutely an older sister as well. And I relate to Dee Dee and Dexter, but I definitely relate to, and you know what the funny thing is too, is that my brother called me Dee Dee. Like that's my childhood nickname.
Okay. Got it. Well, so
like not from Dexter's Lab, like he didn't get it from that show. But it was just, oh my God, that's hilarious. Yeah, no, but I totally get it.
Yeah, my kid sister used to tease me with that, my older stupid sister Didi. Although in the family, I was the one that studied more. So I was also the nerd. But with technology, man, take me out, let me do something else.
I know. So, well, that's why we've been having so much fun, is because of all of our technology breakdowns. We spent like the first 15 minutes with technology breakdowns, but we're here. Yeah. We're talking about intimacy, and I'm really, really excited to have this conversation with you. This is obviously something that's near and dear to my heart. I love bringing it to my audience, and I feel like we collapse a lot with intimacy. We're like, oh, love is intimacy, or sex is intimacy, or eroticism is intimacy, or relationships are intimacy. And so I'm really excited to have this conversation with you to really distinguish like what intimacy is on its own, like as its own thing.
Well, the best way I can put this in very few words is what you get to understand, feel, know at a very deep level. And you can be intimate, quote unquote, with colleagues from work, not necessarily physically intimate. You can be intellectually intimate. You can be emotionally intimate with your friends. So intimacy isn't just sex or eros or just a love relationship. Intimacy is more. You can be financially intimate with people like your accountant. They know the intimacy of your accountancy. You can be with your doctor because they know the intimacy of your body, not just your OBGYN or anything, like not necessarily related to your reproductive system. So any kind of medical doctor that knows you intimately in a physical anatomical way knows about you. So you can be intimate with your mentors because they know your deepest searches, obstacles, setbacks or drawbacks. They know your biggest fears, maybe, if you open yourself up to various degrees. So intimacy is what you get to understand and know at a very deep level. What does very deep level mean? I think that depends on the person, how open they are with themselves. First of all, how much do they allow themselves? You can have intimacy with yourself. Okay, I'm talking about psychological, emotional, spiritual intimacy with yourself. How well do you understand yourself? Okay, how well do you allow yourself to understand yourself? And then
Yeah.
how well do you show yourself to others as well? So at a very, like, the very essence of intimacy is how much, how deep you know yourself, your not your job, your mission, let's say,
Yeah,
the
your
people around
purpose.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, your
Yeah.
craft.
Oh, I love that. Your craft. Yes. Beautiful. Yeah,
Yeah.
and you don't coach people on, you say holistic intimacy coach, but you don't coach people on like every single area of their life and intimacy.
No.
What is it that you specifically hone in on?
Mhm. I look at the erotic and sexual intimacy. And when
Mhm.
I say erotic and sexual, I make a distinction between them. Probably this is known to people. I'm just gonna, for all purposes,
Yeah,
I'm
I
gonna
don't think
repeat
that it's
it.
known to everybody. I really don't. So take the case that, I mean, I'm sure that there's some people that know, but take the case that you're explaining it to people who don't know.
Okay. So erotic pertains to the invisible universe to others, but just you. Okay, your internal or inner universe, as I call it. Emotions, aspirations, desires, wishes, fears, the meaning that you give to everything that pertains to your sexuality. Okay, the meaning that you give to otherwise just common encounters, physical encounters, they mean different things to different people. The same encounter can mean differently to you than to the person you are intimate with physically. So this is just the universe that you can't see, you can't observe, you can't analyze from the outside, only from within. And you can share from that. And the sexual part is the part that can be observed, seen, measured, categorized. You can look at it in terms of physical aspects, okay, genitalia, differences in genitalia, moments in the sex act, so arousal, intercourse, peak, plateau, um, any kind of accessories that you can use and you want to use or other people can look at and study and analyze and so on. So that would be they're related because obviously you can be erotic with somebody. You don't necessarily have to be sexual with them. You can still be erotic, you can still feel arousal, but you
Yeah.
don't necessarily act on it. When you're sexual to somebody, you don't necessarily have, although I think that one's kind of risky, but you don't necessarily have to be erotic. You don't necessarily have to desire the person. That's kind of, there's an edge there when you separate the two and when you
Mhm.
act, yes, physically
There's certainly a
without
lot of
being,
overlap, right? Yeah.
ideally you want to overlap them. It's not always possible. And I'm looking at, sometimes you can have erotic feelings for people, but you can't necessarily engage with them for whatever reason. That's not
Mhm.
necessarily a wrong thing in and of itself. I think the drama is when you are sexual with people, but not necessarily erotic with them. So your inner universe is nowhere near connected to the person.
Mhm.
Sadly, sometimes that can happen for many reasons, not just really negatively or shadow aspects, but just disconnection from the body, obligations. Like a lot of people, at least where I live, there's still a lot of women my age, I'm 40 or below my age, that still think that sex is a duty towards the husband, although they don't necessarily. So that still happens. And I think it's not just in my country. I just probably have never connected with other people long enough, or with a lot of other people on a coaching basis, on just a intellectual exchange, to know if this is more widespread.
Yeah, well, I would definitely say in my study, research, conversations, it is absolutely more widespread than just Romania, where people will, or especially women, will have sex out of obligation, and especially in hetero relationships, where to like sex is for the man, or you need to, if you don't have sex with your husband, then you're a bad wife, or they'll leave you, or whatever the reason may be. But it comes out of obligation rather than out of pleasure and eroticism and intimacy.
Yeah, I think obligation kills eros, basically, and we don't
Oh,
want to kill eros. We want to let it live, bring it in.
yeah, yes. Okay, so how do we do that? Like, how do we inhabit our bodies? Like, how do we actually be in that state? Because it sounds like that's the ideal, right? Like the ideal is to like embody that eroticism. So how do we do that?
Okay, on two levels. The first one, which I always commence with that when I work with women in coaching, can you accept that sometimes, maybe for whatever reason, you're just not connecting sexually, not even with yourself? And like, can you allow yourself this part of your sexuality where it's hibernating, it's
Yeah.
in its winter, internal winter, and whatever that means. Maybe it means a week for somebody, maybe it means more, maybe it means less. So first of all, that's, I think, not putting a pressure on yourself totally allows you to, whenever your spark comes back, you totally inhabit it, and it's like, wow, okay, it's back, I'm back, and now I'm gonna and it's not the Terminator, I'll be back, it's the
Yeah.
sort of hot, sexy, juicy you are back. And when you are back, there's multiple ways in which you embody yourself. First of all, you allow yourself to just work with your impulse. Okay, spontaneity, everybody has it. Okay, even people that are in their 50s, in their 60s, they also have a sexual impulse. It may not be as often as when they were teens or 20 or 30, but they still have it. So
Mhm.
spontaneity is one way. That requires that you have a lot of self-love, self-trust, love yourself,
Mm.
to just live it there. That one, just hearing the idea and sitting with it, okay, I mean, you can do some things on your own. Secondly, you try things. And this is where a lot of sources of inspiration come. And I want to believe, like Fox Mulder in the X-Files, that I'm one source of inspiration for people.
Yeah.
And I have multiple ways in which I do that. First of all, you talk with the person. So in sessions, I talk. I ask the women that I coach, I ask a lot of stuff. Like, what is pleasurable to you overall? Then what is sexually arousing to you? We open up a conversation about that. Then we talk about, okay, what could you imagine that you could try? Okay, so imagination, that also pertains to eros, by the way. And then, because you want to embody that, okay, how do you start bringing those into your actual experience? How do you make it happen? Because imagination, some things you can't apply, and it's good to have discernment. A lot of things that women imagine, they could apply. Okay, maybe they don't share the really crazy stuff in coaching sessions. That could also be the case. Maybe they might be worried that I would judge them, but the stuff that they share most of the times are doable, like in
Mhm.
their lifetime. And without getting, I don't know, leaving for a holiday, I don't know where, buying what kind of crazy things. So most of the stuff they can do at home with their husbands, partners, fiancés,
Yeah.
etc. So, and then when it comes to keeping yourself in that physical vibe, there are many people that have a lot of stuff. I have practices. Women's practices that we use accessories, we can also do them without. And the practices, they don't start off being crazy and wild. They start with the basics, okay? Connecting with your body physically and gradually with your erogenous zones. Primary erogenous zones, okay, the humid zones in the genitalia or the entire pelvic floor, chest, breasts, face maybe. And it doesn't have to be crazy. It can be just simple touches, simple paying attention to your body and what it needs, talking to it. The one is like a
Yeah.
lot of the challenges that I have with women in sessions is when I have practices that involve talking, like actually verbally talking to parts of their body. There are two major or main widespread reactions that I get. One is silence, like I swear I can hear crickets. The words won't come out. Yeah, it's really tough for women to talk to their genitalia. We use different words there, but or it's really tough for women to talk to their breasts. And when they start to, like I had a woman in coaching, she said at the beginning, I kind of said it with half of my mouth, direct translation from Romanian. I don't know, like she kind of almost said it, like she had trouble saying it.
Yeah.
Then the other reaction is when they start to speak, they cry. They cry because they realize the disconnection, the number of times where they engaged, but maybe they didn't want to, or maybe they engaged in ways that weren't good for them and they never spoke up. So once they start to talk to their body and ask it how it feels, wow, that stuff also comes up. So that's part of the shadow that sometimes it's just the shame to talk to your body. It's like weird. What is that? But then when the heavier stuff come up, man, that's deep shadow there.
Yeah.
And
Oh, I
yeah.
felt that. Like, first of all, we're just gonna skip break because this is beautiful. We're just gonna keep flowing. This is awesome. And when you said that, I really like that sent shivers all the way down my body. Like I felt like different shivers in different areas of my body when you shared that because it is it's so real
Mm.
when you've never connected with your body before or never let yourself connect because we hold a lot of trauma in our bodies as well. And so some of it is like you just don't think about it. You're just like, oh, what do you mean connecting with my body? Like I have a body. And then like sometimes it's like, oh, there's actual like reasons why we don't. And so in that moment of connection after disconnection, I really felt that when you said that.
Mm.
That's really beautiful, and that's a beautiful container to hold for people and women especially with sounds like the clients that you help really haven't had the opportunity to consider themselves in this light before, and so it is just something new. And I really love also how you talked about just like meeting yourself where you're at, just like you don't have to start like with like anything that is going to be totally and completely dramatic and outside of your comfort zone, but you really can just start with that connection and like simple touches. That's really
Mhm.
beautiful.
Yeah, baby steps in some cases. I
Yeah.
mean, most of the women that seek me for coaching are women that are really, in a way, challenged. So,
Mm,
and basically, that's why you wanna help people.
yeah.
And when they get on a roll, like when the crying, the release, they get in the habit of talking to their body, that's when the fun parts also start to come up. Like some of the jokes that I make with the ladies that are the, let's say, several months in, where I have one woman that she's 1 year in the daily practices. She's like, okay, today we're gonna flex our feminine muscles. We do pelvic floor exercises.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or the messages like, I want something juicy. I want to. That gets a lot of answers, funny answers, whenever we decide we want to talk to the body.
Yeah.
Or she's open to doing advanced. I also do Taoist practices. I resonate a lot with Taoism,
Mm,
more than with Hinduism. So I did Tai Chi. and women's practices, sexuality related, and just feminine practices based on the Taoist tradition. I had a teacher here in my hometown, and I love that. So
Mhm.
when I facilitate some of those practices, some are really advanced, and it's not for, first time you get into this, it's like, whoa, wait, that's too complicated. When you get all over that hard layer that's on top of you, like psycho-emotional mainly, and the fun comes out from you, like, because you got it, whoever you are, you also
Yes.
have it. Yeah. Then you're also, that's the beautiful part, you also get more, how do I say, at ease with more complex practices, and that's really rewarding, like for women to show up in intimacy and they can do more complex things with
Mhm.
their partners, not necessarily overwhelming their partners, just showing up differently and feeling themselves from within differently, not just physically, but also emotionally. So they hold space intimately, more intensely, with more confidence. That's
Mhm.
beautiful. Those are some of the rewards that you get once you start to do the practices
Mhm.
daily, weekly, at whatever pace you want to take them, whoever you are.
Yeah, and I think the question I want to ask is, how much energy do we have for all of this? Right? Like I feel like sometimes people hear like daily practices and it's just like, oh my God, that's a lot. Like, so
Yeah.
how much energy do we have for this? Like what do we do with that every day?
Yeah. So first of all, it's not mandatory. I mean, you can take breaks. Like, for instance, women have menstruation. Okay. Those are the days when you can totally take a break and it's absolutely fine.
Mhm.
Um, Also, it depends on what happens in your life, if you're a parent or not. The seasons, I know this sounds like obsolete, but it is still true. The seasons do matter, even if, for instance, where I live, we no longer have a winter, but still, when December hits, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna take it slower. My everything that I do gets, how do I say this, diminished. Work wise, socializing wise, I kind of go into semi hibernation mode, and that's totally fine. I mean, I think the people that can understand and hold space for this in relationships, like where you don't have a partner that kind of expects that you show up in the same way every day, because let's be honest, neither men nor women can do that. Daily show up in the same way with the same intensity. That happens for athletes when they're training and they're preparing for competitions. They also have their time off, times when they take it slower. So it's the same in intimacy. Okay, our bodies pretty much function the same way. Then there's also the hormonal shifts. Okay, perimenopause, menopause, old age, health issues. Sometimes just because you have a constant pain, like for instance, I still have constant lower back pain no matter
Mhm.
what I do, like stretches and all that. Some days it's like this buzzing, like low key buzzing in my body, and
Mhm.
it drains me out. So okay, some days I'll take a hot bath with salt, I'll lie in bed, and that's it. And
Yeah.
yeah, like we're all people, and pressuring ourselves. When I say daily practices, don't take it literally, take it in the more figurative sense. Okay, it's really often. That means it's not just 2 times per week, every week. Maybe some weeks I will be 7 days in. Okay. Some weeks I'll be 5 days in. Some weeks I'll be 2 days in. But overall, it's a lot. It's a lot. And it's not just weekly, once a week. So take
Yeah.
it like, okay, often. And I also do that with the women in my community. They don't feel like doing something. I'm like, okay, ladies, 5 minutes and then we're out. Some days, okay, 10 minutes, then we're gone. Everybody goes and does whatever they need to, and that's it. We don't need to push ourselves. It's like a
Mhm.
quickie.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I love the permission to be human. Like the
Exactly.
permission to be imperfect. I'm
Mhm.
like oftentimes when I'm, doing the show and like hearing these interviews and like hearing, people talk and stuff, I'm like thinking of all of the like objections that I get from people or questions that I get from people, about these topics. And I'm like, I hear all of my perfectionist people who are like, oh no, another thing that I have to add to my day. When will it ever end? These daily practices. Da, 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 da. It's like, you know what? You're human. It's okay. It's okay. You can actually just let yourself be human. It's totally fine. And yeah, and what can you do today that would feel good, or that would, yeah, I love that permission piece. And also like the, it just, the quickie, just like, okay, you don't feel like doing it today, just for quickies sake, just 5 minutes, 5 minutes, set a timer, 5 minutes, go, you know.
Sometimes 3 minutes. Like I have a woman that I'm working with daily. Okay, sometimes it's 6 days a week, sometimes it's less, sometimes it's more. And some days I'm like, okay, we don't have time, we're in a rush. Okay, we do 100 breaths. That's what I did with her the other day. And
Mhm,
it takes 100 breaths when you do them super fast,
mhm.
and then you're up and running because that's what she needed. It took under 3 minutes. And then we were
Yeah,
like, okay, we're gone. Go.
beautiful, beautiful.
Yes.
So what we're gonna take a quick break, and then when we come back, I want to talk about we've been talking a lot about like intimacy for ourselves and like eroticism and sexuality for ourselves. So I want to start talking about like, okay, well, what does this look like when you're in a relationship and when you're interacting with other people? So that's what we're gonna talk about when we get back from our break. We'll see y'all in a second. All right, welcome back to the Elizabeth Cunningham Show, Courageously Expanding in Love. And we are here with Liana, the holistic intimacy coach. And we've spent the first part of the show talking about what intimacy is, which, by the way, that was an awesome definition. You were like, oh, I think people know this, but like I learned something talking about the difference between like eroticism and intimacy and sex and like I was like, oh my God, that is I'd never heard it fully phrased that way before, especially with the eroticism part. I thought that was brilliant. I thought that was amazing. So just so we're clear on that. And then we started talking about eroticism and intimacy for yourself. And now we're going to get into, okay, what does that look like? So with relationships. So what does each partner understand as far as intimacy goes, or what do they need to understand?
Ideally, communication first. So I know for a lot of people that means, but it's killing the mood, the mystery, the magic of it. But there's got to be some way, verbal or not, to communicate what you like, okay, how you encourage your partner in stuff that they do that you find amazing, arousing, and in ways in which they inspire you or they get you juicy. And also receive, like hear, read, um, figuratively or literally, depends on how your partner also communicates. So you got to be able to, pass information from one to the other,
Mhm.
so that you don't just do stuff mechanically or do stuff intimately from, I don't know, movies, whatever you've
Or
read
like
in books.
hopefulness. I feel like before I was really good at communicating around intimacy, I was really hopeful. I was like, I hope I'm doing this right. I hope that this feels good. I hope that they're liking this, right?
Mhm.
Like there was a lot of like, ooh,
Okay.
like really
Yeah.
hope this is going well, like type of energy.
Mhm.
Whereas like, and then communicating and starting to be like, what do you like, what do you want, like having those conversations where it's like, oh my God, this is so much easier now. I just know what you want and I'm just gonna do that because it feels good for you. So perfect, awesome, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How you communicate, though, that one is also tricky. Like how
Mm.
you say stuff. Because some people are more direct or more plastic. Some
Mm.
people are dirty talking, other people are beauty talking or vanilla talking. So there's like how you communicate and how it is received or how it lands on your partner, and then how the stuff that they communicate land on you or for you. That's also important. And I think there's a lot of calibration. If people rush in, meaning first date sex or second date sex or whatever other definitions and standards people have, sometimes maybe you didn't get enough time to kind of quote unquote smell the other person. It's figuratively. I'm talking about sensing. Yeah, I use this word, like I smell the person, I don't like this person, I smell this person, I like this person. It's
Oh my
not
God.
literally, it's figuratively. Like you kind of read the other person or sense what they might like. Or the other surprise is, and I'm sure everybody's seen that, we're not engaging the same with absolutely everybody. For those of us that have had maybe 2 partners or 3 partners in their lives, we've kind of figured out, okay, you know what? I'm different with different people. And probably, when I think the most challenging thing is to hear from others, but I always do this and it always works. And it's like, okay, works for who? Because this is new for me, and maybe I don't like it, or maybe I don't react the same as others because I'm different. So
Yeah.
those are some of the, I don't know, challenging discussions sometimes, or crazy making discussions sometimes. But that one is important. Like, you're not the same with different people, and neither are the people that you're dating. Like, they might have surprises, that maybe you pull out the best, figuratively speaking, from people. Like, they are with you in intimacy as if, I don't know, like they never imagined they could be. Or the opposite sometimes. And I know it's not what we like, but maybe somebody's like a disaster with us and they don't recognize themselves. You don't understand what is going on. You're thinking that maybe you're doing something wrong, and it's just maybe just incompatibility. Or maybe
Right.
you said something with a tone that triggered something in the other person. And here, again, let's really allow ourselves that some of the stuff that we say that we don't intend for, to hurt the other person, maybe they do that, or maybe they turn off the other person. And we're not all knowing, not even coaches. Like, sometimes I post on social media and I'm like, you know what? Sex coaches are not valid for everybody. Like, a sex coach could be a disaster with somebody, maybe because they are too human and they have their limitations, sexual limitations. We're not limitless. Like, I know the Bradley Cooper movie was amazing, but I don't know, maybe if we took some amazing pills and we would be the ideal partner for everybody. But otherwise, not even porn stars are ideal for everybody, not even dominatrixes, or I don't know, doms in kink. They know stuff, but maybe not everybody's turned on by them. So allowing ourselves to fail potentially, or hit the person with I don't know, in the wrong way, figuratively speaking, like say something bad or not constructive, that can happen. It doesn't mean that you're not capable sexually. Stuff happens in relationships. And reminding yourself, okay, so I said something, it didn't work, ouch, okay, let's take a breather here. Maybe I'll go and talk to a therapist, or go and talk to a coach, see what I can, like, how I work this mess up in myself, first of all, and then how I show up in how we get back to a juicier trend here. And
Yeah.
that in a relationship, it takes 2 people to understand, okay, somebody said something, maybe they didn't want to hurt me, they did, or I got hurt because of what I heard, however we want to phrase that. Okay, let's not, let's not make a big drama out of it. It's not our entire sex lives. It's just one afternoon or one morning or one night that something didn't work. And then we'll talk around it somehow, draw around it if we have to, or use body language around it, or we'll find ways to make it better next time. So I think communication, like, first of all, speaking out or speaking with the person and listening, and then how we communicate, but then also allowing ourselves the how do I say this? The imperfection of us,
Yeah.
not ruin the interaction. So, and the relationship or
Yeah.
relationships depends on people. So,
Yeah, sure. However many people you're relating to in this situation.
yeah.
Yeah, and I love the perspective on that, like keeping things in perspective
Mhm.
of, yeah, like this one thing is not going to ruin the entire relationship. Like you're not a terrible person. Like it's okay, right? And also the perspective of and I said this to a client at one point, and this was under the context of jealousy
Mhm.
and comparing yourself to other people. And I think that
Wow.
that's something that we often do, like in
Mhm.
especially in like being sexual beings, like we want to be good, we want to pleasure our partners, and like that's a question that you get a lot, like, am I doing this as good as I could be, or like are other people doing this better than me, or is my partner going to leave me because other people are better than me, things like that comes up a lot. So like that comparison piece where it's just
Mhm.
like, you know what, like, do you, and in this context he was like, yeah, I just, I wish that more people were attracted to me so I had more options. That was the sentiment. I wish more people were attracted to me so I had more options, so then I would feel less jealous if I had more options. And I was
Mhm.
like, is that really the case though? Like, do you really need everyone to be attracted to you? And like inside of this conversation of just like, you are the erotic being that you are, and you have the erotic, amazing gifts that you have. And like, do you need every single person to be attracted to you? Like, I don't have time in the day for all the people to be attracted to me. Like, don't you want a limited amount of people to be attracted to you so that it makes your life a little bit easier? Like, that's my question.
Um, yeah. So the way I look at it, first of all, I think it's really tough to tell somebody that didn't have enough attraction around them, from others communicated to them, to tell them that, oh, you don't need a lot of that. So I think
Mm,
that's in a way, I've heard that said to me in different areas of life, not necessarily this context. And I was like, but that's cruel. You can't tell somebody that never had enough of something that they don't need it anyway. And it usually comes, or in my experience, it often came from people that had a lot of what I didn't have. And I was
mm,
like, no, this is cruel. You don't understand what I'm going through here. So don't tell me,
mm.
like, I want to see you living my experience with lack of X and then see how you do it. And if somebody that had a lot of that comes up and tells you, well, you don't need that, you would tell them to F off, right?
Yeah.
So I was like, yeah. So first of all, I would never, like, I would totally honor the place where that person was. I'm not sure if it was man or woman,
Mhm.
but I would totally honor the place and tell them, look, I understand. Like, there are areas in my life where I've had a lot of challenges, and whenever somebody would tell me otherwise than what I felt, I was like, get out of here.
Yeah.
That's one. Secondly, I think that pertains to a shadow of the erotic, first of all. So their inner worthiness, the meaning that they give to lack of signals or signs from outside. So a shadow in their eros. And
Mhm.
I would look at, okay, let's see how you wanna, like, how comfortable you are to talking, sitting with this, first of all, and then
Mhm.
feeling your way out of it. Because if you stay in a place where you're dissatisfied, disgruntled, or even frustrated about things, they fester, and it gets really, like, it might not be initially visible, but your entire composure, demeanor, facial expression, they change. And it kind of turns you into a not so attractive person.
Mm.
So from that perspective, I would totally work with the people. Okay, you've got this lack that you perceived. For you, it was real, and I wouldn't contest that. Okay,
Mm.
let's see how we work with it, because I don't have a magic wand to make other people show up and say, wow, you're amazing. I don't have that. I don't have that even for me. So,
Right.
and the most frustrating thing for me was that I was super attracted to people that couldn't care less about me.
Mhm.
Like, I've even heard that from somebody that I had not just attraction, even emotions for. And this guy was like, I'm neither happy nor sad to hear that. Indifferent.
Mhm.
And that one was like really big, and it wasn't the only one. So I've heard this throughout my life several times. So in my case, it wasn't a lot of people. It was like the ones that I wanted, not all of them wanted me back.
Right.
Awful, like super frustrating. And there's no easy way out of that place. Like I know sometimes it kind of it drained me to wrap my entire brain and heart and genitalia,
Yeah, yeah.
physically speaking, around the idea that this person or these people are never gonna be turned on and never gonna want me, no matter what I do to myself. It's like live with it. Wow, it for in some cases it took me years to navigate that. It's not easy.
Hmm.
So I would totally understand the people that would go through that and not have enough options so they could feel more relaxed. I totally, that's one of the reasons, not all of them, but one of the reasons why I started doing this work. It
Hmm.
started working on myself, and then I was like, okay, when I want to grow, can't make other people like me back. I just can't. I wish I could, but I can't. So I got to figure out a way to navigate this
Yeah.
lack of interaction and still do something with myself. Because
Right.
one day or multiple days, the ones that I do want are going to want me back. And I'd better have done my work, because I don't want to show up with my festered frustration and disappointment and just lack inside of me, like having this big bug growing inside me.
Yeah.
I want to clean that one out, basically.
Yeah.
That's the only way that I would tell people, and I've lived that, so I totally get it. It's
Yeah.
awful.
And also we're gonna skip over break again. We're just gonna keep going. And it's all
I talk a
good.
lot, sorry.
It's all good. It's all good. And also to say that like, yeah, different things work for different people, right?
Mhm.
And like
Yeah.
depending on like your, your background, your experience, your perception. Because honestly, for this guy, like that totally like was like super helpful for him. He was like, oh yeah, like I don't want everyone to be attracted to me, actually.
Yeah.
Right? Like, actually, I only want these specific people to be attracted to me. Oh, okay. Well, what, like, let's talk about that. Right. And
Mm.
so I was like and also like, thank you for bringing that perspective and that, the word that I want to use is challenge. Cause it's like, thank you for not just like agreeing with me and just being like, no, I wouldn't do that. Like, I would absolutely not. And if you had told me that, I would tell you to F off. Like,
No, honestly, I'm not like the
yeah,
spiritual take on, but you gotta accept it. You don't need it anyway. You gotta grow through it. I'm like, F off, man. I'm not that advanced. Let me be. Sometimes
yeah,
lack is lack, frustration is frustration, and you work with it in your life and let me be and go about my own way. So I
totally.
wouldn't tell people you don't need it anyway. No, that's one of the
Yeah,
things that are cruel to do to people. There are other things that you can do to people to be cruel with them. That's one. So yeah.
yeah. No, and like I'm like finding myself like wanting to defend myself, um uh, but yeah, but it's just because in that specific situation, it was like I did not invalidate like how he felt or anything like that. It was just like just pointing out that like sometimes that when you look at things, my only point to that was when you look at things from a greater perspective, that sometimes your perception of what you're upset about shifts.
Hmm.
Right? Like that was my only point. And like, yeah, it's totally valid to like not to feel however it is that you're feeling,
Hmm.
right? Like if you feel in lack, it's totally valid to feel that. If you feel frustrated, it's totally valid to feel that. And yeah, it was more my purpose of sharing that was more to like, if you have a perspective shift, then it can also shift how you're being or how you see a situation or your stuckness in that situation. And it
Mm.
also reminds
In
me of like
order,
a, yeah,
sorry. So in order to shift the perspective, you first of all, I think you have to, or not have to, but it helps to honor the place you're in
yeah,
and just
totally.
hear that somebody understands, and hopefully maybe if not in the same place, but in other areas of their lives, they've lived through something like this. And they understand. It's like they had to fight with or live through frustration, anger, lack, and all of that.
Yeah,
So I think,
absolutely.
especially with what's going on right now, like I follow a lot of accounts on Instagram of platforms or people that are working in this field. So
Mhm.
intimacy growth as personal growth, not necessarily entertainment. And the stuff that is shared there and all, you would think that these people have these amazing sex lives and like no problem in the world, like perfect relationships. And if something remotely problematic shows up, they magically fix it or they magically find somebody else. And it's not the truth. Like,
Mhm.
this is one thing that with all the sexuality that is presented online now,
Mm.
not necessarily directly, but hinting at it, we might think that people are having a lot more sex than they're actually having. Because
Mm.
people have
Mhm.
bad body days, bad menstruation days, bad cramp days, all of
Right,
that. So people have to work sometimes and they are drained. They have to do house chores, like clean up the whole house or stuff like that.
right.
They got situations with their family members and they got to show up there and they take all their energy and put it elsewhere. So I think remembering, like, for everybody should remember that, look, not everybody's as they look on social media
Yeah,
and or how they what we see in TV shows. Not everybody's like that. Come on, let's come back to planet Earth.
yeah,
I'm
yeah, absolutely.
psychologically challenged, but when it comes to like physical reality, I'm not that challenged, thank God. And that's a huge resource with everything that is going on right now because,
Yeah,
okay, we're real people with challenges. And
yeah,
that's the saving grace here. And then we start doing, okay, we take it from scratch, back to the drawing board or back to the bed, and we
yeah,
take it back.
yeah.
Yeah, we work through it. That's okay.
Yeah, no, I agree. I
Mhm.
completely agree with you. Okay, we're gonna have to wrap up. I could talk with you forever. But what are I think that we don't even have time for our end of show questions, but I would love to know what are you promoting? How can people find you? If people are like, oh my God, I need to talk to you, how can they find you?
The easiest way, on YouTube, Liana, Holistic Intimacy Coach. And on my YouTube channel, at the About section, I have all the links where they can find me. So
Beautiful.
Liana, Holistic Intimacy Coach on YouTube, and start from there. I think that's the best way. And you get
Beautiful.
links to my online programs, links to my site where you can reach out to me. You got a lot of videos there on YouTube that you can enjoy. So you can look at the uh, what is it? The last video that I did was with the coming of Jesus Christ, like two scenarios. One is tantric, and the other one you're gonna have to look at the video to
Oh my
listen to.
God.
Yeah, sometimes like a lot, like all the crazy stuff that come to my mind, I'm like, put it on my YouTube channel. So start
Amazing.
there, people. Yeah.
Amazing. Oh my God. I love it. All right. Liana, thank you so much for coming on the show today. Thank you for sharing your knowledge, your wisdom, your compassion, your compassion and your passion. And thank you for challenging me. Thank you for being like, no, I wouldn't do that. That would be fucking cruel. And like, but seriously, and and different things work in different scenarios. And I just appreciate you being a stand for people and for what works and what's possible and intimacy and eros and all of it. So thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you, Elizabeth, for having me, and I look forward to talking to you again. Let's see what
Oh my
everybody says. Yeah.
God.
If
Yes,
we
me
get
too.
questions, we can do a rerun.
Yes. All right. And thank you to every single person who is watching, listening. Remember to like, subscribe, rate, review, all of the things help us to grow, help us to have more of these conversations about love, sex, and relationships. If this is something that you feel like should be talked about more, then please hit all of those buttons. It makes a huge difference. And if you have any questions, please reach out to me as well. There's all of my links are in the show notes, and we are going to put Liana's links in the show notes as well. All right. To everyone out there, oh, I love you. Keep loving. You have been listening to The Elizabeth Cunningham Show, Courageously Expanding Love with me, Elizabeth Cunningham. Tune in live every Tuesday at 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on transformationtalkradio.com, where we shed light on relationships, sex, love, and the ways we wish we could be, but never thought were possible. Learn to love yourself and create the relationships you want. Connect with me at ElizabethAnnCunningham.com. That's ElizabethAnnCunningham.com.